So in crisis, we can broadly describe these as fight, flight, or freeze that happens for us. So for many, many years, I was trapped in that freeze reaction in crisis. That was I would freeze on the inside. I had nothing left to work with except my head. But inside would be very, very numb. I'd be frozen. I would go on an autopilot of, what are you meant to do here? It actually took a lot for me to learn how to stay in what I was feeling and for that to not be too scary. And then I was allowing myself the option of, do I fight this or do I get myself out of it? Do I get myself away? I think Monday was probably the first time that I actually let myself do that consciously. I was watching myself in that process of finding out all the information and trying to make a decision. My head was wrecked. Within about 20 minutes of reading all the news, I was like, oh my God, what'll I do? And when I just stopped for a few minutes and went into feeling about it, it was so clear. I could feel exactly what felt right. And in 5 minutes, I'd made my decision. That was it. It was so clear. So I could have spent hours in that place of, well, I'll wait for the next weather update. I'll wait for the next news report or whatever recommendation is happening. In the past, I would have watched myself do something like that. Wait for more information. At a certain point, it'll feel clear. At a certain point, it'll feel clear. This day was the first day that I just stopped and said, nope, I don't need my head in this. Just feel into what's going on. And the decision was effortless. Sometimes I wonder, have we become so technologically developed and so domesticated that we lose access to our wildness? It was my wildness that could feel the storm on Monday. And I was looking out at blue skies, mostly blue skies. I could see the sea just about beginning to change. But it was my wildness that told me, stay put, don't go anywhere today. Don't even get into the cars. When we start to open it up, we start to realize how heavy those programs are. Do this in this way, be this in this way, don't do this, don't do that. And some of it is useful. You know, drive on the left side of the road, don't drive on the right side of the road, yeah? There's an extent to which it's essential, yeah? But within ourselves, when we start to recognize how our different programs are actually restricting us, so that when it comes to something out of the ordinary, like a crisis, we don't know how to act in that. We've lost touch with that part of us that's wild, that's connected to everything in nature, that knows exactly what to do instinctively. And we spend a fortune on therapy because we make not so good decisions about things. Because we keep getting lost. We're following the programs and we keep getting lost. Is this familiar? It's definitely familiar for me. I kept following the program. I kept following the recipe or the instructions of everything that I believed would lead to the right result for me. And I always ended up in some sort of stupid cul-de-sac. And sometimes I even found myself, I went back into the same bloody cul-de-sac again. Kept getting lost. It wasn't until I started connecting to a deeper sense of me. And it was deeply uncomfortable to let myself feel a wildness of me. I tried so hard to be good. I tried so hard to find all the rules, play everything by the rules. Work really hard. That's how you're successful. It was a really painful finding out that didn't work. It just didn't work for me. When I accepted that I was a little bit wild in a way, and initially that felt like mayhem. It felt like the most dangerous thing I could let myself be, because it was so unknown. But when I let myself give that a voice and give that expression, and that took the form of just letting myself feel whatever I was feeling, it started to demystify that. It didn't feel so mayhem, it didn't feel so wild when I let myself get to know what I was feeling and what that needed. I was getting more and more in touch with my wildness. And the irony was that everything started to get calmer. Everything started to get a little bit more peaceful and a little bit more kind of organized in a way. Not at all what I expected. I thought, oh my God, if I go there, everything's just going to fall apart. I believed so much that the order would save me. Orderliness, find the rules, do it this way. Work 9 to 5. Jesus. I couldn't, no matter how often I tried to work 9 to 5. After 2 months, I would just be in this sort of weird coma, going through life. This one foot in front of the other way of existing. I was miserable and I didn't know why I was miserable. My energy just hated orderliness. So no matter how much I tried to force myself to fit that, it was never going to feel comfortable. My nature wanted to be free. No amount of fencing, no matter how big I built the safari park, was going to satisfy that. I had to take down all of those different barriers. I had to find them and I had to dismantle them. In getting to know my wildness, I learned that I could handle it. Because wildness when you're a child gets you into trouble, yeah? You break a window, you fall off a tree, whatever it is, yeah, you get into trouble. You're just being yourself, you're just being a kid and you're being adventurous and you don't know the dangers of the world, yeah? You all familiar with this? And then you get into trouble just for being yourself. So we learn that this comes at a cost. I can't be this wild. I must tame it in some way. Or I must put an anesthetic on it in some way. I must dress it up differently so that the world finds it acceptable in some way. And I don't know about you guys, but to me that felt horrendous. I could live with it to a point. But then it would start to feel uncomfortable. I would just be at that point where I felt like, oh, I fit in. I'm actually doing this. I'm being a grown-up, or I'm being professional, or I'm being whatever it is. It would just get to that point where it felt like, I'm doing this, I've got this, and something in me would kick back. Something in me would say, no, this isn't it. So if instead of saying our wildness, if I say our vitality, that's a little bit easier to stomach, isn't it? It's like, yes, I can be very in my vitality. I can be vibrant, no problem. What's vibrant? Oh, I can be fun, have a great sense of humor, life and soul of everything, no problem to be vibrant. But if I call it my wildness, then somewhere we need to have some rules. This is a very wild path. We're going into a landscape that we don't yet know. So early stages will feel like, oh my, I'm going into the Amazon. I'm going into parts of the Amazon that nobody has ever even been before. That's how it can feel. But when we remember that we are wild, and we're going into wilderness, it's kind of cool, isn't it? It's like, yeah, sure, I'm right at home. If we can approach meditation in this way, it will feel safe. It won't feel like every part of me is going to crumble. Because I am wild and I'm going into my wilderness. So everything I find in there will fit. there isn't going to be any part of me that I find that's not going to fit or not going to feel right for me. Rules kill that. It can really kill that fire in us. And that for me feels like a tragedy. I see all sorts of people coming in and I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I'm this or that, or this isn't working for me, or that's not working for me. And every single time it's the same thing. Every single time we're trying to fit ourselves into something where we don't fit. It's never meant to feel comfortable. It's a really good thing that it doesn't feel comfortable, because that will make us constantly question that. It will make us constantly rail against that. When we accept that our spirit is free, our spirit has that wildness in it, then I have the ability to be me. I might still need to learn how I handle that, how I can bring that in my world, how I can bring that in my life. But that can be done. Yeah? How's this feeling now? Feeling tired or not so tired? Not tired. Not tired. Imagine that. We talk about wildness and we don't feel tired. Talk about the hurricane. We're sleeping. Drained. Just drain the life out of it. There's a really good key in this. When we recognize that something in our life, something of our ordinary, how we're living, if we're feeling drained in that, we're killing that wildness. If we're feeling energized by something, it can be the most random of things, like drawing a picture or whatever, learning how to play guitar. It doesn't even matter what it is. But when we're connecting with that spirit of it, that spirit of our wildness, we will feel energized. No matter how many hours we spend doing it, we will feel energized, rejuvenated. So how many of us can recognize that, actually, I've not let my wildness have a space. I have fenced it in under all sorts of mindsets and beliefs and structures and rules of how I ought to be in life. I believed everything that I was told, and I lost touch with my wildness.